Welcome, Cyclone fans, to another episode of the Nightcap, brought to you by our good friends over at Sauce Bar and Grill Names, what I believe and what many other people like me believe to be the best tacos, not just the names or the state of Iowa, but in the known explored universe. I am joined once again by my co-hosts Matthias and Josh Lenz and child producer Aiden Wyatt. How's it going, everybody?
What's up? We got rain.
We did get rain. Yeah, well, I got a little bit too much. I got rain and then a little bit too much wind with mine. Mine was a little bit scary. I actually there's a branch about 5 inches across came down on top of my girlfriend's car in the driveway. It's got a big old dent right on the top. Didn't break any glass, but not ideal.
All right, it's fine.
Yeah, it's just fine. It's not my car, boys, so it's whatever.
I still only have 2 kids, so
you still only have 2 kids.
Mid stream here, but
I say for anybody that isn't aware, Josh is on baby alert, like literally minute by minute baby alert.
Waiting for Mitch Trubisky Lens to come to our world any minute now.
Baby Trubisky Lens. All right. But in the meantime, we did bring back up here today just in case Josh does decide to have a third child right in the middle of this episode.
He's much better at commentating.
He's far better at commentating any of this than any of us ever can hope to be. It is the Godfather himself, Mr. John Walters. How's it going, John?
Awesome, guys. How are you?
Good.
Man, this is fun being on with Josh. And I'm going to tell you, I know you guys are part of the Marchie Murdoch network too. And
we are.
My favorite memories of each of those guys was against TCU. Josh, 3 touchdown catches and throws a touchdown pass, and they snapped the nation's longest winning streak TCU had. And then I'll never forget Marchie after we beat number 4 TCU, standing up at the top of the ladder, directing the band.
Yeah.
Awesome moment. So
unforgettable picture.
He just called it the Marchie Network. Now he's like, if he hears that,
I guarantee you, if Marchie heard that,
it's going to be in his Twitter bio.
Now it's just going to be called the Marchie Podcast Network, and it's
absolutely should be.
John is rebranding us.
It might be for the better.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. So, John, we wanted to bring you on. We want to talk to you a little bit about kind of your career at Iowa State so far, kind of how you got here. We'll talk about, get to know the real John Walters behind the mic a little bit. Yeah,
fire away. I'm ready.
Okay, we're gonna bring you some hot ones, and then we got our two games later on. We'll get you some trivia questions. So first off, you're from kind of the Chicago area, correct?
Yep, Glen Ellen, Illinois.
I actually had an apartment there for a while.
Did you?
Yep.
All right.
I was working in Oakbrook.
Okay. Yeah. Great little town. Glenbard West High School. And came to Iowa to go to Drake University, and thought I'd be in Iowa for 4 years and I'd get the heck out of Dodge. And 41 years later, here I am, man. And there's no place I'd rather be, honestly. I love it here.
You ended up closer to Fort Dodge than out of Dodge.
That's true. Yeah.
So where ideally did you have somewhere in your head you wanted to go if it wasn't going to be Iowa?
I didn't really know. I knew I wanted to do play-by-play. I loved sports when I was a kid. Every day, that's all we did was played sports, and I just absolutely loved it. But I ain't got no skills, and I realized that pretty early on. So, game recognizes game, no game recognizes no game. And I realized, okay, if I'm going to be involved in sports, it's not going to be as a player. So we had a high school radio station, and I started doing games, football and basketball when I was in high school. I was lucky to have that, man. It was a 10-watt station, WGHS, and you could put 2 tin cans and a piece of string together, and you get better reception.
10 watts, huh?
10 watts, but it didn't matter.
Barely enough to heat a hot pocket.
I don't think you could even hear it in the stadium or anywhere near the stadium, but it doesn't matter because you're doing what you love and you're getting reps, calling games, and so that's when I kind of fell in love with it. And I always loved announcers in Chicago. I mean, Jim Durham, Chicago Bulls, Lloyd Pettit, Chicago Blackhawks, Harry Carey, White Sox, then the Cubs, and just love listening to those guys. And so I always knew that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I when I went to college, I knew that's what I really wanted to study, but I wasn't sure where it was going to take me. And then I got lucky enough to start at Channel 8 when I was in college, and rest is all here, right here in Iowa. Yeah.
So growing up, did you have you mentioned some of the Chicago area broadcasters. Were there any others that you kind of looked up to?
They were my favorites. I mean, I was pretty obsessed with the Chicago teams, but not as many games were on TV back then, and so Jim Durham, I thought, was as good as any play-by-play announcer I'd ever heard calling Chicago Bulls games, and I was a big Bulls fan, and so it was really fun to listen to him call games, and I really started even probably junior high, like jotting down things he would say, places on the court where the basketball was, and he was so descriptive, and I'd started writing down all the expressions and things like that, not cliches, but just baseline left or free throw line extended right. A lot of stuff you'll hear me say in my play-by-play comes from listening to him as a kid, and that's like most announcers. There's very few originals, man. We're all borrowing from everybody. You take a little piece of this person, a little person, that person, and you kind of form your own style. But he was absolutely my favorite. And then, after I got to the state of Iowa, Pete was without a doubt a great influence on me. And I wouldn't be in the business without Pete Taylor. And he hired me. And, that was a really lucky moment in my life for that to happen. And I've been able to stay here ever since.
So where did the it stuck on automatic come from?
That's Jim Durham. That is Jim Durham. That's 100% his thing. And that's not, I say no catchphrases. That's one that I did steal, but I only, honest to God, I only probably say it like once every 5 games, maybe. I mean, a guy truly has to be stuck on automatic.
Well, and
before you're going to say.
I was going to say when Tyrus McGee was playing, it was like every 5 minutes.
There were a few of those, but like it's got to be like a Josh Lenz at TCU for it to count as a stuck. I mean, you got to really be doing something special, and so. Yeah. I might go 5 or 6 games in a row, or last year 24 games in a row without saying it.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting to hear, though, because I mean, you think other players are watching game film and trying to take things from them, but you don't think of the announcers kind of doing the same thing. So it's kind of cool to hear that you've been kind of studying and kind of doing that.
Yeah, when I talk to
take bits and pieces from everybody.
Yeah. Cool. For sure. And I talk to a lot of kids that are interested in broadcasting, and I tell them all the same thing, get as many repetitions as you can. It's just like anything else. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. But there's a great book called The Art of Sportscasting that was written by a Kansas professor, that Tom Hedrick, former Kansas professor. It's just kind of a how-to on broadcasting. And every time I've had an intern, I've recommended that they read it. And it's just a really good way to learn how to call games, but you're kind of studying it and thinking, hey, if that's something I want to do, I better learn what it's all about and really pay attention to the little intricacies of it. And that's how you kind of get started in it. I didn't ever plan on working in TV. That just, like I said, you're not going to make a living just calling play-by-play unless you are the voice of the Chicago Bulls or NBC or whatever, so you're going to have to find something else. And I was really lucky. I was a student at Drake, and our professor said, hey, there's a part-time news reporter position open at Channel 8, and they want 3 of you to go down there and interview. And they sent 3 of us, and 2 of us were really, really qualified. And then there was me. And, and so Mary Bach ended up getting the job, and she's a producer, I think, in Philadelphia. And Mary Mills was on Channel 13 for a long time, hired as a reporter there. And then there was me, and Paul Rhodes, no relation to the football coach, was the news director at Channel 8 at the time. And he looks at my resume and he goes, it looks like, John, everything you've done is in sports. I say, yeah. And he goes, why don't you walk across the hall and introduce yourself to Pete Taylor and see if he needs any help? And so that was the best moment of my career, without a doubt. And Pete said, you want to go to the Iowa-Wisconsin football game this weekend and cover that? I said, yeah, that'd be great. So yeah. Then ever since, I've been working at Channel 8 and then Channel 5 and then at Iowa State. So really lucky, really blessed.
I do have one request. If we're gonna use other people's catchphrases, if we beat Iowa this year, can you hit them with the fade to black on the radio like Joniak does with the Bears?
Nice. Okay.
Please do it, and I will. Whatever.
You want that over? Thanks for the memes.
It's your
call. It's your call.
That would be a good one.
Let me sleep on it, and I'll get back to you tomorrow.
You let me know. I do take requests. So absolutely.
We did appreciate that.
He'll be texting you every game.
Yeah, I'm not proud. I'll say anything. So,
We did appreciate that shout out. I don't remember who it was against.
It was West Virginia because they missed a field goal wide right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What did I say?
Because it was after the Texas kick went wide left, and we changed our name on Twitter to wide left.
Right. Yeah.
So then West Virginia missed the field goal wide right, and John's like, wide right, natty light. You guys can change it back now.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I do remember that now. Absolutely.
Classic. We really appreciate the shout outs.
I'm just glad that Texas's kick last year was wide right, wide left, natty left.
Oh,
so,
man.
Here, I got it pulled up.
Now change it back to wide right.
That's awesome.
Classic. As soon as that came up, because once in a while, like Learfield will send us quotes, like they'll send me clips, like because we use them for like our hype tapes and stuff like that. So they'll send us like random clips of stuff like that. And as soon as that I heard that you said that on the radio, I immediately DM'd Learfield and I was like, can we get a cut of that?
Gotta have
it. Literally like 2 minutes later, they had to cut an email to me.
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
They are really good. Yeah, Learfield's great.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah. You mentioned you had that kind of that moment where he's like, why don't you go talk to Pete Taylor? I guess can you talk a little bit about your relationship with him? What a guy.
The best. I mean, guys my age that grew up listening to Pete. You just can't replace what he meant to those people because, as I mentioned, not a lot of games were on TV. And so Pete was your voice, man. I mean, when the Cyclones were on the road, even, when I was working at Channel 8 and then early years at Channel 5, still the Cyclones were not on TV a lot. And so on the road, you're always listening to Pete and Eric, and listening to their great calls. And,
right.
And so you felt like you knew them, even if you didn't. A lot of people did, but they really did, because what you saw was what you got with Pete. And he's just a really fun guy, too. He had a tremendous sense of humor. Really, really fun guy. Played baseball at Iowa. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but he was a really good baseball player and loved the game. And so we used to go play a game called Double or Nothing, where we took all the baseballs that we collected off the roof at what was then Sec Taylor Stadium, now Principal Park. And we're up there shooting, dodging foul balls. And so we threw them all in our bag there. And so we had this bag full of baseballs. We'd go to like North High School or Hoover or whatever. And one guy would pitch and one guy would play left field. And then the other two guys, the other team would bat. And you either got to second base or you're out. So, right field's closed, obviously. So, yeah, Double or Nothing. That was a game Pete introduced us to. And, man, I just never forget. We tried to play at Birdland Park one day, and the guy came by with the tractor, and he goes, "Sorry, guys, I got to mow." And Pete just slammed that bat into the ground. He was so ticked. And he was just pissed. And so he was so much fun, and just a great, awesome person. I'll share one more. We were playing golf one morning at Waveland, and Pete loved to play golf, and we had three of us, and so we had like the first tee time, and we were just trying to get out ahead of the crowd because we always played early in the morning so we could get to work. And we got down there to the first tee, and it's like, all right, nobody's down here. We're gonna be good to go. All of a sudden, here comes this old man down the hill. "Hi, fellas. I'm Bert. I'm going to join you this morning. All right." Okay. And so Bert's playing with us, and whatever shot you mishit, and I mishit a lot, Bert would tell you what you did wrong. You topped it. You hooked it. You sliced it, and thanks, Bert. Yeah. What happened? All right. And so Pete hit a bad shot, which was rare. He was a pretty good player. He hit a bad shot, and Bert's like, "You topped it, Pete." And Pete's like, "Yeah, that's right." And he walked up behind Bert. He had like a 7-iron in his hand. So, he didn't see it, but we did. And got a laugh out of it. And,
so was Bert just a dude that showed up, or was it like?
Yeah,
Bert?
Just a guy that showed up.
Oh, Bert wasn't anybody of significance. He just was there.
But,
okay.
But Jeff Johnson, who I worked with, not the Jeff Johnson Alumni Association, but a different Jeff Johnson, worked with us at Channel 8 at the time, and he, of course, sent an email the next day to, "Hey, Pete, looking to play again tomorrow. If you're interested, sign Bert."
Get old Bert, yeah.
So now we had some fun. But Pete that's who he was. He was an everyday guy. He was a great guy, and the people in the athletic department absolutely loved him. And an Iowa State institution, without a doubt. And I was so blessed to work for him and learn from him. And one of the first things he sent me to was a girls 6-on-6 basketball game. And I'm from Chicago, and I've never seen 6-on-6 basketball. Yeah. And you guys probably don't even remember that when they played.
My mom
that.
talks about it all the time.
Oh my gosh!
But
yeah, it's like 3-on-3 on each side of the court. Okay,
yeah, because they can't actually cross the court.
But there's one ball. Yeah, you're either guard or you're forward. And I walked in that gym to shoot highlights. I'm like, what the heck? What is going on here? You know, and I got back to the office. Pete was just laughing because he knew he put me into a trap. So anyway, it was fun, man. We always had great times. We always had a lot of laughs, and it's really how I fell in love with the business.
What's the biggest thing you took away from him?
Yeah,
treating people right. Number one. All the broadcasting stuff, I learned a ton. I did. He was so good at calling games and enthusiastic and great vocabulary and great ability to be right on top of the action. And I learned all that from Pete, but the number one thing was he just treated everybody great, and it didn't matter who you were. Eric and I both said this. You never walked away from a conversation with Pete without a smile on your face. He always made you laugh, and that's a gift that not a lot of people have. And it's awesome when you find a friend that does have that. And that was definitely Pete.
So because then you took over, was it the 2003 season, I believe was your first season on the call,
right?
Was it, I mean, because under unfortunate circumstances, you kind of got thrown into the fire a little bit. What was that kind of transition like? Was it a shock to your system a little bit, or
It was, because I'd been calling basketball since high school, but I had not called a football game since high school.
Sure.
So, that was 1984 was the last football game I'd called. And all of a sudden in 2003, I'm calling a football game. And so that was a little intimidating. And then, right off the bat, we start off 2-0, and I'm thinking, man, this is going to be easy. And then we lost the next 10. And I remember, there were a few of those losses where, Eric saying, if I got to stay up here, so do you, So, there were some rough spots along the way, but it makes you appreciate all that much more what's happening right now. And it is so awesome what Matt's doing. And if you've lived through the down years, you have an even greater appreciation for what's happening now. So it's really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talk a little bit about that. I mean, you started with the 2-10 and now the Fiesta Bowl, right? So, I mean, over the years, you've seen a lot of crazy things, and we've also seen some lows and mixed in between there, and now we're winning a Fiesta Bowl, and now this year a potential top 10 team to start the season. So, as a broadcaster too for the team, I mean, is just as much anticipation as us as fans, or I mean, what's going through your head right now as we lead up into the season?
Yeah, I do a lot of my preparation stuff in the summer, so I just got done rewatching the entire season from last year, and that was fun just to even do that.
Worst seasons to rewatch
because you forget stuff, And I after a game, I always go back and watch the TV broadcast the next day, because there's little things that you don't see. No matter how much you think you're seeing it. I'm following the ball. I'm not seeing who made a key block as much as Eric was, or Ben Bruns was able to identify a lot of that stuff. And now we got Ryan Harklaw. He'll do a great job with that.
Yep.
But I'm following the ball. And so it's harder for me to see some of the stuff that's happening away from the ball, but you catch all that when you go back and watch it. But just going back and watching last year, two things just jumped off the page at me. And number one was that Breece Hall was great every game. I mean, I voted for him for the Heisman. Unabashedly. I'm not ashamed to say it. I thought he was the best player in college football, and he just was great every week.
Every snap.
It's just amazing how consistently good he was. And then, you realize it at the time because he led the Big 12 in sacks, but Will McDonald is an absolute game changer. And, the number of times that teams held him, whether it was called or not. And a lot of them were called
every time.
A lot of them were called, a lot of them weren't, but he's a game changer. He is absolutely an unbelievable player. And, a lot of other stuff. I mean, we had so many players play well last year, but those two things really jumped off at me. So I do a lot of that in the summer, and it's a blast to think about all the guys coming back. And I mean, I get it. There's a little bit of being concerned? Should we be this excited? Yes, you should. You've got a great coach. You got a bunch of great players. Does it mean that Iowa State's going to win every game? Not necessarily. I'm not going to rule it out that they could, but there's nothing guaranteed. I mean, football is such a funny game. The ball bounces funny, and you're going to be in close games. Iowa State's always going to be in close games.
Yep.
What was fun last year was being in a few not close games, blowing out Kansas State, blowing out West Virginia, blowing out Texas Tech, blowing out Kansas. It was fun to have a few that you could relax a little bit in. And as we get deeper and deeper into the Matt Campbell, there's more of those games each year. But you're still going to have a lot of close games, and you're going to have to do well in those close games. And that's what's going to determine if we have a great year or a good year or whatever. But man, I can't wait to see it unfold. And I love the approach he has to this team, and not just this team, but the program, the way he has built it, and everybody's bought in. I mean, you walk in that building, everybody is bought into that. And, it's why they're having the success they're having. I have no doubt about that.
John, what have you noticed from, Campbell's first couple years to where he's at now? Like you said, you kind of talk about how everybody's bought in. What does that look like, being on the inside and just seeing that transformation within the university and how everybody's bought in?
Well, I'll give credit, first of all, to Jamie Pollard and Dr. Winterstein, because they're investing in football. They want football to be successful. They want it to be as successful as it could possibly. They want to do everything in their power to allow Matt to have the most success that he can have. And so everybody's got to be on the same page there to start with. But just within the program, just the expectation of success, the feeling that, and it's hard in life, man. It's hard to do something unless you truly believe you're going to do it. But if you can get to that point, you can do anything. And these guys all believe they can win every week. They know that if they follow the plan, if they do what they need to do, the detailed stuff that Matt always talks about, that they're going to have a great chance to win every week. And, and I think the biggest story from last year, without a doubt, was the offensive line. I mean, the growth that they made coming into last season, I remember everybody thinking, oh boy, they lost a bunch of guys off the offensive line. Is that could be a weakness? Jeff Meyer's done a really, really good job as the coach of the offensive line. And those guys, we saw twos coming in and all of a sudden playing really, really well. And now all the depth and putting Downing back in there. I mean, this could be a terrific offensive line, the best we've had at Iowa State in a long, long time. And so it all starts there. And Brees would tell you that, and Brock would tell you that. But, we've got a lot of good skill players. We've got a great defense. We've got a great coordinator. Love our linebackers. I mean, I'm just having a hard time finding the stuff I don't like, and that's a really good feeling to have.
It is a real good feeling. Well, and actually, too, you mentioned the offensive line. I mean, they did that too with Trevor Downing was gone the whole season. But, pretty much, maybe arguably or maybe inarguably the leader of that group. Yeah, not having him the whole season.
So Foster had hardly played, going into last season. Right. Newell had been hurt the year before. Simmons hadn't played. Remsburg hadn't played. And, Schweiger, nobody would have been able to identify him in a police lineup a year ago, and now he's an all Big 12 player.
I don't know who that guy is.
His story's a great, great story. He just wanted to be a part of the Iowa State football program and walked on and look where he is, man. He's an all Big 12 player. And so, and what's exciting is, we haven't even mentioned Grant Treiber and Hufford, who came in there, played really well in the Fiesta Bowl. So there's a lot of guys that are chomping at the bit for their chance. And so, if you're going to have consistent success year to year in football, I think it has to start there. You've got to have a good offensive line. And I think we're finally at that point where we can make that claim.
Well, yeah. And then, part of building our team, like you said, is building out from the trenches out. Yeah. And Matt Campbell's talked about that too. That early, it's a lot easier to build your skill positions in your quarterback, because you can guys can come in and play as freshmen and have success as a running back or a receiver or whatever.
Is that true, Josh?
Am I speaking out of turn?
Is he making it sound too easy? No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's the closer you are to the ball, right? I think there's probably some truth to that. And you
can look at Breece Hall, or Breece Hall came in as a true freshman 3 games in, and he's Breece Hall. Yeah, but offensive line takes us so much longer to build because you have to build the person, not just the player.
And it's the group. It's the
group.
cohesion of the 5 guys together that takes that takes it. And so to not have spring practice last year, and then do what that group did, I mean, just an awesome tip of the hat to Dave Andrews and to Trevor Ryan, everybody in the strength room, and then also just to Jeff Myers. I mean, I think a very underrated offensive line coach. And obviously Tom Manning has his fingerprints on it too. And so there's a lot of guys. I mean, I'm scratching the surface of the people that are involved in the success that those guys have. But and you got a great leader in Colin Newell right in the middle, where you want, a guy that's going to touch the ball on every play, and one of the best centers in college football. And so I'm excited about that group.
John, it seems like you have the same problem I do, because like whenever I'm a guest on somebody else's podcast, they always ask me like, "Oh, what players do you like?" And you start naming off players, and pretty soon you've named off the entire roster and the entire coaching staff.
My bad.
Like, sure, who do you think could be a good pass catcher? And all of a sudden you name like 11 receivers off, and it's like,
all of them,
all of them. Yes, I like all of them.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. I mean, we actually have options. I mean, it's not like we're all saying the same 3 guys.
Sure.
Somebody could bring up Mike Rose and Ryan Vance and start talking about those linebackers, and I'm super excited about them. But you're right. I mean, that's a good deal, man. Don't not celebrate that, because when that's happening,
I always blow their time limits out of the water because I keep naming people. They're always mad about it. So one thing I wanted to ask you a little bit before too is as far as kind of like your job within Iowa State as opposed to just on the field stuff, but part of your transition has been doing the Cyclones.tv stuff. Right. Now ESPN Plus has kind of taken over a decent chunk of that anyways. What was, because that's probably a new skill set you had to learn, is how to be a TV producer kind of. I mean, what?
Yeah, we have people that do a great job in our office with that. And actually we're more involved now that ESPN Plus is involved. A lot of people don't realize, but we're producing, in basically a studio in our offices that we've created, the majority of those games that go on ESPN Plus. Now, sometimes if it's like the football game with UNI or a men's basketball game against Kansas or whatever, ESPN's going to send in its own announcers, even if the game is on ESPN Plus. They're going to have their own truck. But all those other games, the ones that I'm calling and Brent Bloom's calling, women's basketball, gymnastics, soccer, softball, Tom Corshell calls a bunch of them. Those are produced by us. And so we have even more on our plate than we've ever had. And that transition's been really good. I mean, Jamie Pollard, when the Big 12 had its 3rd-tier rights, basically given back to the institutions to do with them what they wanted to do with them, he created Cyclones.tv, and that's when I went to work at Iowa State. And so it's been awesome. You couldn't ask for a better leader than him. And every year, the thing about working at Cyclones.tv is every year it changes, and the dynamic completely changes. Okay, this year our big challenge is we have to do this. This year our big challenge is we have to do this. And you have to kind of reinvent yourself every single year. But that's exciting. Tyler Rutherford, who runs the whole operation for us, does a phenomenal job. Danny Orris, you see a lot of the creative stuff. You guys probably remember the hit tape. She started all that. She is super creative on that side. Caitlin Heyer is unbelievable with the creative content. Zach Stryber. So Caitlin and I just got back from Claflin, Kansas. We went down to do a story on Emily Ryan and in her hometown. So we're going to be putting that out here in the next few days. But I love storytelling, and getting to tell the stories of our student athletes is what it's all about. And so that hasn't changed. And, leaving TV, it's good, man. I don't have to pretend to care about Iowa anymore. Or, I mean, so.
Well, I thought it was funny. You said that your first game covering was an Iowa-Wisconsin game, and I was like, well, that's interesting.
I did cover a lot of Iowa games early on because, we covered both. I probably covered just as many Iowa State games as Iowa games, but I was there a lot, and it's a different perspective, certainly, and total respect for what they did during those years. I mean, Tim Dwight was an unbelievable. Okay, all right. Tim Dwight was an unbelievable player to watch, incredible to watch, electrifying. They had a lot of good players, and but man, I'm glad that we have not only closed that gap, but now can can stake our claim, and we'll see. That game's going to be competitive as heck, and we'll see how it turns out. But I wouldn't trade anything we have with anybody right now. So super excited about that.
I did ask Matt Campbell if we could wear black uniforms against Iowa. So
what'd he say?
He said he didn't say no.
Yeah,
but it was the most coach speak answer you could ever get out of him.
He said, I haven't even thought about that yet.
Okay.
Maybe I feel like that's a bunch of bullshit.
Those guys can wear whatever they want if they keep playing the way they're playing, man. I just love watching them play every week. Yep. So
absolutely.
John, while we're on it, I always, you look at some of the other rivalry games, throughout the country, and they put it towards the end of the season. How do you like it where it's at right now, the beginning of the season? Would you like to see it towards the end of the season? As a former player and, just kind of growing up watching that game, I always thought it would be interesting to have that game towards the end of the season when both teams are kind of full stride, because, I feel like sometimes you see a team that is a completely different team by the end of the season than they are the second game of the year. And so
that's good.
What are your thoughts on that?
I like it where it is just because I like having a really good early test. So that I think you don't get better until you figure out what your weaknesses are. And I think that game is going to, one way or the other, it's going to expose what's good. It's going to expose what's bad. And I think it helps us going into league play to have played them every year. But I get what you're saying totally. I mean, the one year it was actually played at the end of the year because of the events of 9/11, 20 years ago. And what's crazy about that, I was actually going to call that game for ABC Regional. That was going to be my first football game since high school. And I was all set to call it. And obviously the game got canceled during the week. It didn't end up being an ABC game. And by the time it ended up at the end of the season, it was a Fox Sportsnet game. And Iowa State beat them. It was part of their 5 straight wins over Iowa. And but it was cool at the end of the year. And there was, just a lot of extra thought going into that game because of the events that had happened earlier that fall and everything. It's a very patriotic feeling to be in that stadium that day and see that game. And I think it's going to be that way this year too, on the 20th anniversary.
I was just going to say that we're full circle on that now.
Without a doubt, yeah. So, no, I know what you're saying, Josh, and I get it, and I know that like Florida and Florida State do that some, and some other rivalries, Georgia Tech. You'll see that game at the end of the year sometimes out of conference, but I love the focus on the conference once you're in it, and just sticking with that, especially now that, we've been to a conference championship game and we know what it's like to be on that side of it. I kind of like leaving Iowa way in the rearview mirror, no matter how that game turned out, and just focusing on trying to be at your best for that possibility.
Yeah. I can get on board with that.
No, yeah, I was just interested on your take on that, because that's one thing that I've always thought that was kind of interesting, was that it's towards the end of towards the beginning of the season rather than the end. Yeah.
It gives you a lot to look forward to early in the season. And, you don't see a ton of great non-conference matchups. And so that's one that gets a lot of national attention in that week because of that reason, first of all, but second of all, because both teams are deserving of it now. And so, man, the buildup this year is going to be crazy. I'm not expecting game day to come back, but it'll be every bit as exciting that week. And so I think it's going to be every bit as exciting for you and I. I can't wait
you and I
for that game, and I think every Iowa State fan is in that book of, it was taken away from us a year ago, man. They're chomping at the bit to get back out there, and let's just behave ourselves, Cyclone fans. We don't have to turn into Phoenix Suns fans or anything,
Fair enough.
But it's still going to be awesome to watch.
Clones in 4 quarters.
Clones in 4 quarters.
Yeah, you got it.
I have long held the belief though that if one of the new kickers can put one into the back of the end zone, put one out of the back of the end zone, that very opening kickoff, the stadium's going to lose its mind.
Yeah, that would be worth losing our minds over. Yeah, a deep kickoff would be awesome.
Could be the loudest cheer of the entire game. Just
yeah, and one of the few mysteries on our team is going to be, okay, who's going to be kicking the ball off, and then also who's going to be returning kicks. I mean, I can't tell you how valuable Kane Nwangwu was last season. I mean, when you think of the number of games that you could feel the momentum kind of slipping away from Iowa State, and all of a sudden he just goes 60, 70 yards and puts it right back in Iowa State's favor. Baylor game, he did that. Oklahoma game, he did that. His long touchdown run against TCU was huge in that win. Kane was a great player, and I was so happy for him to get drafted. He
deserved it. Everybody.
I mean, it's not his fault. He was behind, two NFL running backs.
Yeah. So what are you going to do about it? Yeah. But he deserved everything he got. I mean,
good for him. I mean, it can't be easy going to the Vikings, but but hey, I'm sure he's excited about it.
I appreciate you throwing shots there, John. Now,
well, only NFC Central rivals will take that.
Fair enough.
I mean, Al Lazard has made Packers games actually watchable for me, which is a huge accomplishment on his part. I give him a ton of credit for that because I didn't think I could ever sit there and watch the Packers and actually want something good to happen for the Packers, but I'll put blood ahead of that. And Alan, he's one of my all-time favorites, and so I'm so happy for him to be having the success he's having too. He's earned it, and he did it the hard way. So,
well, Aaron Rodgers, if you are listening by chance, please see yourself out.
Yeah, or maybe take Alan with you.
Yeah.
Wherever you go.
Aiden, do you have a question for John?
Yep. So you talked about Matt Campbell, when he first got there, and you've kind of seen the process all the way through. Are you kind of seeing that with TJ Otzelberger at all, or what kind of you noticed through the first couple months that he's been at the helm?
Yeah, give us the scoop.
Energy, man. Big time energy. TJ brings it every single day, and he's going to be an absolutely relentless recruiter. But that's just part of it. I mean, he's so focused on the guys, and it's just fun to watch. I went to practice actually today just to hang out and watch them, and the guys are running their sprints at 100%. Nobody is behind at all. Just the energy, the vocalness of the practice is just really, really upbeat. It's exciting. And so, super excited about him. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. And I've known him obviously for a long time, big believer in him. And I think he's going to be really successful. The magic's coming back to Hilton.
So how fast is the hype train going?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, what's good is we've got a lot more guys now that can compete for minutes. And so you got to earn it. You got to play hard, and you see it in practice. I mean, guys are all over the floor, diving for loose balls.
That's good.
They're going to have to earn it. If they're going to be on the floor, there's 13 guys that can play, and the ones that are giving it up are going to be the ones that are out there. And nothing helps you more than competition. And the greatest motivator is the bench. And so I think you're going to see a team that really gets after it and plays hard. Now, we got to have some guys make shots, and that's what's going to be interesting to see, because I think there's some guys that can really shoot the basketball on this team, but it might not be the same guy every night. And there's a lot of pressure on it. I shouldn't even say pressure. That's not fair, but there's a lot put on the shoulders of a freshman point guard in Tyrese Hunter. And he's the only freshman on the team. And I think that might help him a little bit, because he's completely surrounded by older guys, and they get it. They're going to help bring him along, but he's really talented. And so, I don't want to overhype it. I don't want to get people ridiculously excited, because it's still going to be a work in progress. But I think TJ's establishing something right now that people could be really excited about.
You think
if you had to guess who's going to hit the first, he's stuck on automatic, who's it going to be?
Is it going to be Tyrese?
Tyrese McGee. Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, Kalsher can certainly get hot. Blake Hinson can get hot. Hunter's really talented. I think there's a lot of guys that's not even a good answer. I mean, who's it really going to be? I'll say I'll say Kalsher.
I say you got to pick one. Yeah.
I'll say Kalsher.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to write this down. If you're wrong,
I just won't say it. I don't care if another guy is stuck on automatic. I'm not saying it. I'm just going to make sure it's Kalsher.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll make an exception to my rule. The first time he hits a shot,
I'll make sure I'm at the home.
I'll just say he's stuck on automatic.
He's just stuck on automatic.
I'll make sure I'm at the first home games, and then I'll get a seat right behind you in the radio, and then I'll just have it in my ear, and then if
I can be bought. I can be bought. Man. I have my price. I can be bought very easily. I'm not proud, so whatever it takes to win.
Well, the great part is you can justify stuck on automatic because even a car that's not moving can be stuck on automatic. The transmission just got to be stuck. You can justify it however.
It's a valid point. We saw a few of those moments last year.
Yeah. Gonna move past those just a little bit. But it seems like though, just in general, between the kind of the renewed vigor around around men's basketball, the success that Bill Fennelly's team had this past season, football, softball had a good season, tennis made the NCAA tournament. It seems
David Carr won a natty.
And David Carr won national championship. And cross country won a Big 12 title. I mean, it seems like right now, does it seem like Iowa State athletics as a whole has more momentum right now than it ever has?
I think so, because I don't know that I've ever seen Cyclone fans more excited about the women's basketball team than they are right now after the young players that really were really good a year ago, and they're all back, and not all of them, but the majority are back, and you're excited about that. I think Kevin Dresser's really got some good things going with wrestling. Yeah. It's just going to keep getting better every year under him. We're seeing it get better every single year under Matt Campbell. What Boomer Esiason is doing with tennis is just amazing. Found out today that Boomer Esiason was in the same junior college as Tyrus McGee, Cali Community College.
Oh, there it is.
So everything comes back full circle to
there
Tyrus.
It is. Yeah.
And as luck would have it, I talked to Tyrus McGee last night too. So, everything's coming.
He's in Israel, right?
Yeah, he was. He got the heck out of there because the fighting was starting. But Tyrus, he's had a great professional career. Yeah, and we did one of those game centers, kind of like what we're doing right now. Only we're watching a game, so we've started doing those again this summer, and we did one last night with Tyrus McGee and Melvin Edgem and Will Clyburn and TJ. TJ was an assistant on that team. And when they beat West Virginia on Georgia's game winner in 2013, we showed that one. So those games are fun, and we got to get one with Josh too. We got to do 2011 Oklahoma State at some point. That's got to be one of those.
Josh got hurt in that game.
Yeah, I'll get Leonard Johnson then. I'll get Leonard Johnson, Jake Nod. We got to have Woody, right?
Just a dagger to the heart.
I'm sorry, man. All right, we'll do TCU 2012.
There we
John
go.
just ran his ass over with a bus,
and that wasn't the only good game he had. But man, that's my favorite.
I don't know why
when he threw the touchdown pass. He throws a touchdown pass to Ernst Brunn. How's it going to get better than that?
Yeah,
yeah, that was good.
Josh after we had Steele Jantz on, Josh hopped on. We're like, oh, it's just Josh.
Because it was like Josh and
every week he's getting hit with a bat.
Yeah,
and it was like.
And now the guest that everybody here came here to see.
Yeah, I mean, his wife's in labor in the hospital right now, and he's sitting here doing this.
We've been trying to get him to do if it worked out the timing right, we could do it live. He'd be live from the hospital, live from the nursing room.
I'm sure my wife would love that.
We got to draw the line. Got to draw a line somewhere, Josh.
It's tough, man.
Yeah. I love your dedication, man. That's good stuff.
Even bought a mic. He unprompted bought a microphone and everything.
That's big time.
He's big time.
Wait a second.
He's got a soundboard. Oh, he's got a soundboard too. Yeah.
So every one of you guys has a mic, don't you?
Yep. We're all mic'd up.
And I'm the one.
And the announcer doesn't have a mic.
Professional announcer, and I'm just on these stupid earbuds.
But John, theirs can't do this.
Oh my God.
Who was that?
Josh.
That was Josh.
Okay.
You said you had a price for everything, right?
Oh yeah, I can be bought. Yeah. What do you guys need?
What is your price to use that helium voice changer on the radio?
I've done it in big moments. It sounds like it anyway.
Touche.
No,
John,
go ahead.
Hey, speaking of big moments, what is your favorite call at your time at Iowa
Oh,
State?
yeah. We've had about 8 different people asking that question in the comments.
When Lazard caught the touchdown against Oklahoma in 2017,
yeah.
The feeling of they're actually going to do this, maybe, the game wasn't won yet, but that was certainly one of my favorites. I think one of my most memorable for me personally was, and I don't know why it just came to my mind, but we were playing at Nebraska, 2009, Paul Rhodes' first year, and they had 8 turnovers and Iowa State had none. And Eric and I were driving over to the game that day because we just, it was Lincoln, it's an easy drive. So we just drove over that morning. And we were talking to each other into the idea that Iowa State was going to win that football game. We felt pretty good about it. And then Tom Crochelle calls us and says, guys, Austin Arnaud's not going to play today. And also Alexander Robinson's not going to play. And so we hang up with him. We look at each other. I guess it's going to be another trip to Lincoln, not this one. That's going to, as it turns out, that was our last.
That was the last one, yeah.
Right. So, we had pretty much convinced ourselves that with a freshman quarterback starting his first game, Jerome Tiller, freshman running back Jeremiah Schwartz making his first start, going into that environment, that we probably weren't going to win that day. But as it turned out, those guys did their job. They did it well. And then 8 turnovers to none. And it was just a surreal game to be a part of. And I didn't realize, I knew those guys were going to play. I didn't realize like 20 guys were sick on the Iowa State roster. They were throwing up on the sideline and stuff.
Really?
It wasn't a good deal. So anyway, my call at the end of that game, because I kind of looked up and, you see all those fans and, I'm thinking what's going through their minds right now? I know what's going through my mind. Okay. So I think my call at the end of that game was, Eric, 86,000 people are going to walk out of here and go, that was ugly. But as far as I'm concerned, other than the day I met my wife, I think that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So, those 8 turnovers, that was a thing of beauty, man. That was just awesome.
You just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, it was goosebumps. And I'll tell you on a personal level, just as far as memorable moments in games, when Dan McCarney won his last home game against Missouri, when they had Chase Daniel and we had the goal line stand and the guys carried Mac off the field. I wouldn't be in this position without Pete, and I wouldn't be in this position without Mac, because when Pete passed away, Mac really went to bat for me. He wanted me to be the guy to replace Pete. And like I said, I hadn't called a football game, since high school. And so he was taking a chance on me. But, he went to Bruce and just said, I really want John to do this. I think that's what Pete would want. And, friends like that, what do you say? And everything he meant to Iowa State and, knowing what was going on with the tennis program and knowing what was going on with the softball program and taking the time to go talk to those coaches and assistant coaches and knowing everybody in the building. That's just who he was and still is. And that legacy that he created with that kind of an attitude, I think has carried on ever since. And Jamie Pollard has taken it and run with it. And we have a bunch of coaches that are always texting each other and encouraging each other. And I'm going to tell you, that doesn't exist everywhere. It doesn't. Yeah. And there's a lot of jealousy in places sometimes. Jamie's created a culture where everybody is truly supportive of each other. And so a lot of that to me traces back to Mac. And so when we beat Missouri that game, they were ranked, and to have Mac carried off the field on his players' shoulders, man, that was an awesome feeling. Awesome feeling.
There's been a lot of good ones, that's for sure.
The one that always stuck with me is after Naslong's buzzer beater at home. He said, like, Naslong, are you kidding me? Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's the one that I will always.
So Naz and George are two of the absolute unbelievable great guys to ever play basketball for Iowa State. And there have been a lot of others. Those guys I just mentioned that we did that thing with yesterday are right there with them.
Yeah.
But I remember one time walking through the airport, and you fly with the team. So that's one of the real great things about doing these games. Eric and I get to fly with the team, travel with the team, except for this last year when we did all the games remotely. But, we were in a little bit of a rut. Iowa State had lost 3 or 4 in a row. And it was just a particularly tough loss that we landed. And I'm walking through the airport, It's just that little Ames terminal, you know. But I'm kind of walking through and looking like Charlie Brown, kind of, you know, hanging my head. And George goes, hey, cheer up, Jay Walt. You know, we'll get the next one, you know, and here's Naz. Oh, yeah, no worries. No worries. They're cheering me up. Okay. and it's like, why is this happening? They have, you know, but that's the kind of guys they are, man. I mean, they're just awesome guys, and they represent everything that's good about Iowa State. So when Naz hit those buzzer beaters against Oklahoma State that year, what an amazing feeling. And I can't wait to be in Hilton when it erupts like that again.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, people a lot of times will ask, okay, what do you enjoy more, calling football or calling basketball? And I honestly have to say I love them equally, because football game day, everything surrounding it is so great. You know, I mean, it's a full day commitment. Fans are just into it from the minute they wake up that morning. It's their whole day is centered around that game.
Yep.
And I love that about football. And basketball, just sitting down there right next to the bench in Hilton when those moments happen, and it's racing back and forth in front of you. It's just an awesome adrenaline rush. So can't wait for those kind of moments to happen again. I know a lot of Iowa State fans feel the same way.
Yeah.
So you kind of talked about seeing George and Naz outside of where most Cyclone fans would see him. What would you say was the most memorable moment with any coach or any player that maybe you saw and no Iowa State fans have ever seen or heard before?
It's a very broad, but also very specific question.
Good stuff. Good stuff. No, you know who had a huge personality was Johnny Orr, and I wasn't doing the play-by-play yet for Iowa State, but I got to know Johnny pretty well and got to come up here and cover his teams. And so we're sitting there. They had just lost to Oklahoma the night before, and Oklahoma had hit some deep shots. It was before the 3-point line, but they had that big old barrel-chested Cy. You know, the big kind of awkward Cy that had the huge barrel chest, and they had that logo right where the Pioneer logo is now out on the floor. And I'm sitting there right by the court getting ready to interview Johnny, and we're just talking. And I just said, gosh, coach, man, Oklahoma has some deep shots out there. And he goes, I told our guards, you get out and guard them by that chicken. And he was pointing at that logo. And so that, I think you got it actually right over your shoulder there, Aiden. You got the side. You might have the side that I'm talking about right behind. Yeah. So that's the chicken right there, man. But no, Johnny was one of a kind with his personality and so much fun. And he wasn't even trying to be funny. He just was. But no, that's one for sure that I'll always remember.
I got a quick. This is a fun story for you, John. But you may not remember this, but this has happened in San Antonio at Howl at the Moon. So I'm gonna start. This is my favorite John Walters moment now, just because of how it ends up with my wife. But so here's a photo of me, you, Barry from Dallas Fort Worth, and then Ted Flint. Yeah. So we take this photo. I think you're getting ready to leave at this moment.
I hope so.
You have a photo here with my wife. She takes it. She comes back and she looks. Oh, that looks good. Now, who was that? I was just like, oh boy.
Who's the old guy that you had me take the picture of? That'll humble you real quick. That's good. That's good, man. No, just what a great bowl experience going to San Antonio on the Riverwalk, and I'm glad you got Barry Peterson on there. He's a great Cyclone, man. Good. He cares about Iowa State. It's just awesome, and he always gets when we go down and play at Baylor or TCU. Doesn't matter. He's always Austin. He's got hundreds of Iowa State fans from down there that go to the games. And it means a lot. You know, you hear him up there, and you definitely hear him in football and basketball both. And he's the guy that's kind of behind all that. So he's an awesome site. I think he got an alumni award. In fact, he did this past year, and deservingly so, because he's done so much without ever being asked, you know.
Bear's good people.
It seems like every sporting event that happens in Texas, he happens to end up at
there. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, and he's got stories, man. That guy can tell stories too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Have him on sometime. You guys would.
We might have to do that at some point.
I think you should.
Barry'd be a good time. Yeah. We'll have to get Barry on that. That's a good suggestion. He wasn't originally like on my initial list, but that's a good one.
Well, he's always just invited us down to like the tailgate.
He always is. Like literally anytime there's a game scheduled for Texas, he's like he'll like DM me or something like that and be like, "You guys coming down to Texas?" And like, I don't know, Barry.
He'd love it. He'd love it.
Great. I mean, and that's the thing too that you notice at the road games is just how, like every single road game, like the Iowa State fans that are there, like they love having the whole team come down, being able to see their alma mater or whatever it is. And like, it's always like, even if you've never met some of these people in Texas or in Manhattan or whatever it is, never met them before in your entire life, you go there and all of a sudden you're brothers and sisters with everybody. And it's great.
Well, it's true. And I think that's one thing that Eric and I have always been amazed at wherever we go. And it doesn't have to be just in the Big 12. You know, we played at Virginia in basketball, bunch of Iowa State fans, played at San Diego State in basketball, bunch of Iowa State fans. You know, just everywhere you go across the country, our alumni association is so strong. And Jeff Johnson does such an awesome job. And so these fans, they feel that connection. I don't know why. It just feels like Iowa State graduates never lose that connection to the university. And maybe it's that way everywhere. I don't know, but it just seems special when we're on the road and we see those Iowa State. They take so much pride in it. And
absolutely,
it's cool, man. I think it's really defines what Iowa Staters are all about. Well,
I don't know if you know this, John, but you're a big part of that. Like,
well, I like to think so. Yeah. No, it's a small part of it, but you know what? It's just cool. It's really fun to travel around the country and see that support everywhere. And I know it means a lot to the guys. So here's a quick story from that Virginia game. I'll get sidetracked. So
get sidetracked all you want.
We're playing at Virginia, and Eric on the flight, you know, it's gonna be a long trip. He buys a John Grisham book. Okay. And so he's got this hardcover John Grisham book in his bag. We're sitting there courtside calling the game, and he looks across the court and goes, "Hey, that's John Grisham." And he was in like the courtside seats right across the way. And so he went over and had him sign the book at halftime and talked to him for a while. And Grisham said something about Iowa State cost him some money or something. He would bet on us or something in a game at some point. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So I digress.
Did he know he was going to be there?
You know, deep down inside, he probably did, and just made it look like one of the great coincidences of all time. But I'm naive enough that I bought it. That's
fine.
Yeah.
We can just go on believing it was a coincidence. It's better. It's a better story that way.
I think so.
The big Oklahoma comeback in 2015.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember that was my first semester away from Iowa State. I couldn't be at that game. But what do you remember most from that game?
Is that Stephen A. Smith asking that question?
We'll just assume it's Stephen A. Smith.
Well, unless Stephen A. Smith was a $10 super chat donor to us, I'm guessing.
Okay, all right. I didn't know. Who knew? There's another
this is a big time show, John.
I guess so. So it's funny that he asked about that game because I was just cutting that game up for Danny in our office the other day because we're doing a thing with some classic comeback games. And so I was just watching that game a couple days ago. And what jumps out at me is Fran Fraschilla is so good. I love Fran Fraschilla on Big 12 games. And he's sitting there. I mean, you know, it's a 20-point game, and all of a sudden Iowa State gets a bucket to cut it to 18. And here they come. Here they come, Brent. I'm telling you, I've seen it a million times. Here they come.
The best call from that game.
He was right. I mean, it was like, man, and he's right. He has seen it. And so have we, obviously, all of us.
Sure.
But yeah, you never feel like you're out of a game there. And that's what Hilton Magic is. And, you know, everybody has their definition of it. But to me, that's what it is that the team never feels like they're out of a game in that building. And the fans know when they need to be at their loudest. And that was a great example of it in that game. And I think Isaiah Cousins got a technical, so it could have been that year or the year after because he got one in each of those games. But that kind of turned the momentum a little bit. And once Iowa State grabbed it, they just, man, that was so much fun to watch that game again.
Yeah, I think one of the best calls from that game was after Dustin Hogue threw down a big dunk.
Mercy.
Yeah. From Brent Musburger.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really miss Brent Musburger calling games. I don't know why, but
I agree. No, he was, and I grew up in Chicago, and he was just like the local sports guy in Chicago when I was a kid. He was on CBS in Chicago, and but yeah, he made the game more interesting. He's a little dramatic, okay, but in a good way, and
that's fine.
I think Fran even said to him late in one of those games, he goes, I know what you're hoping for here. It was clear that he had made a bet on the game, but no, he brought a great, you felt like it was a big time game when it was Big Monday and it was Brent Musburger and Fran Fraschilla on the call. And I love John Sunbold in that role too. And I got to call some games with John Sunbold, and awesome guy. I miss him in the Big 12 too. But yeah, it felt like a big game when those guys were calling it for sure.
Well, it's like his voice, and there's like like in baseball or football, you get Joe Buck. I mean, people like give Joe Buck a hard time, but just his voice, you just know there's like something different about this game.
Something is important in that game.
No doubt.
Well, no doubt. Another voice that was just like that I was going to ask you about is Doc Emmerich, who was called
Doc Emmerich.
He's same guy where if Doc is on the call, it's a big game.
No doubt. I love listening to Doc Emmerich, and his use of the English language is just ridiculous. And I mean, every adjective, so good. And not what you would typically say you should do for TV play-by-play, because what you're not supposed to do in TV is describe everything that's happening.
Right.
Because people can see it. So when I do a TV game, it's more of a conversation, and you're really setting up the color person as the expert. And you're just kind of, watching the game as kind of a fan almost, as opposed to calling every little thing that happens. And that was a big adjustment for me when I started doing some TV games. But Doc's the opposite. He calls everything, but he does it so awesomely that you love it, and you wouldn't trade it for anything. And he's going to be missed, man. That's one of the all-time greats.
And he'd pull like random Canadian towns out of nowhere. Like he would just know people's hometowns. Like it'd be some little podunk nowhere village in northern Canada, someplace.
No doubt.
He'd know it right off the bat, and he'd have a perfect adjective that rhymes with it, and it's unbelievable.
No, that's what makes him special. And that's preparation's a big part of having success in broadcasting. And you can overdo it with the stuff like that. You can, because you want to let the game be the story still, but when you've got all that preparation done and you can draw on that knowledge, and he does such a great job with that, you don't want to force that stuff in. If it happens naturally, great. But yeah, the guys that are really prepared, you can tell, and he's certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Josh, I think you're muted. Technical glitch number one.
This is the portion of the podcast where let's see if that works. Portion of the podcast where we help a Paul Rhodes recruit figure out his.
This would be like it seems like we have to do that all the time.
Talk now, Josh.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
I got you. But John is frozen now.
So
I don't know exactly.
I was just listening. I can fake that real well.
You were actually holding your head that still.
I was fascinated by Josh's engineering skills. It's all good.
Unbelievable.
He got himself back on the air. It's all good.
Unbelievable. I thought you were frozen.
So can you hear me or no?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yes,
okay. You guys should just keep pretending like, no, I don't know. He's not.
Just give a random answer to whatever questions can come up.
Josh, we have a easier time getting off sidetracked enough as it is. I don't think.
My answer is Dubuque Waller. I'm sorry. What was the question?
Dang. Man. And he's really coming at you.
Taking jabs tonight.
I know. I'm
Just
sorry.
taking jabs.
I'm sorry. All right. Fire away, man. What was that? What was on your mind?
No, I was going to ask favorite sports announcer right now, or broadcaster, play-by-play. Who do you look at and say, they're doing some great stuff? Or
Eric Heft.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah. Iowa State fans don't realize how lucky we are to have him. I mean, he's unbelievable and a great partner. And as I talked about with Pete, sense of humor just is so damn funny. And every time you talk to him, you laugh and you walk away with a smile. And so, I've been so dang lucky to work with Pete Taylor and Gary Thompson and Eric Heft. I mean, how do you get any luckier than that? And but no, like network guys that I like right now, they're all good. I think there's a lot of them that are really good. I think Sean McDonough is really good. Talk about preparation. I mean, he brings in that board.
He's got that huge placard thing.
It's like bigger than he is, you know. And, I don't even know how he gets it on the plane, you know. And he must write like letters this big, you know.
He's got to check. He's got to check it. He's got to take it through baggage check.
But he's really good and he's really thorough. And but I think there's a lot of them like that. Dave Pash, I think, is really good. I love watching him handle Walton, you know. It's entertainment, you know. I mean,
what do you even do with that?
And you know, it's supposed to be fun, you know. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you can take this stuff too seriously very easily. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, and you know, if the people listening to a game don't feel like you're having fun, why are they going to invest in it? You know, and so when a game does get to be 40-0 or whatever, and if you're not keeping it entertaining, then they've got every reason to turn it off. And I remember when I was a kid, you know, Skip Carey, Harry's son, he's calling the Braves, and he was kind of dry, but he had a good sense of humor. And he's like, the Braves are down like 17-1. He says, well, as long as you promise to stay loyal to our sponsors, feel free to go walk the dog, you know, and you got to have that kind of sense of humor, you know, in those moments. And so that's half the battle.
So what do you recall from the infamous game in Waco that got very out of hand?
Yeah. So that's one of those moments. So Iowa State got a Grant Rohach touchdown pass to cut the lead to 63-7.
Right where we wanted them. Right where we wanted them.
Yeah, we had them.
And I made them. There's 20 seconds left in the game, and I made the mistake of saying, oh, well, that assures us that it's not the most lopsided loss in Iowa State history. And Eric goes, there's always the kickoff, you know. And so sure enough, we kick it off, and I can't remember, Corey somebody. He was a really good return guy.
It wasn't Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman.
It was Coleman, yeah. So anyway, he takes it like at the 9 or whatever. There he goes, you know. And midway through his return for a touchdown, I'm saying to Eric, you know, you are a savant, you know, that's just ridiculous that he called that, you know. And I said, and I'm the guy that walks in and says, hey, there's a no-hitter going on here, you know. So, but
you must have been calling that Andres Galarraga no-hitter or almost no-hitter for the Tigers, whatever, when the first base ump took it away.
Perfect
there
game.
You go. Gosh, I was thinking of the other Andres Galarraga, the one that I saw down at Principal Park. That's how old I am. So the hitter.
Oh, yeah. Different one.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I remember that too. Yeah. So no, you know, and Iowa State couldn't do anything to stop Baylor that night, and they just had it rolling. And it's a helpless feeling. I mean, I feel bad for the guys when I know how much they invest, how hard they're working, all those conditioning workouts, all that stuff. And then you see them get beat like that. It's tough, you know, and you feel for them. And so, and I'm never going to pretend that I know more than the coaches or know a third of what's going on compared to what they do. So I'm just going to call the game, but I'm going to feel for those guys in those situations. And I'm going to be happy for them when they win. And, like Eric said, you know, sometimes there's a fine line between winning and losing, but the way you feel is night and day different. And thankfully, we're starting to be on the right side of that a little bit more often.
Yeah. And that's why I feel okay asking this question. Which one was worse to call, the Baylor game or the Utah game?
Shaky Smithson, that was at home, so that was tough.
I'd tell you which one was worse to sit through. It was definitely the Utah game.
Did you watch the whole Baylor game?
I was at the old Wallabies and had the worst Philly cheesesteak of my entire life. It was so bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some rough
being a part of the Utah game.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, there's been some rough ones.
Fair. That's fair.
But again, you know what? Look at our fan base. Look at how they've stuck with us through all those times, and now they deserve all the good stuff that's happening. And so that's why I say, you know, you can get yourself all worked up about the expectations for this team, and don't do it, man. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. I mean, this is fun. We've got a football team that can go compete every single week and have a great chance to win. Just enjoy the heck out of it and focus on you and I, and don't get caught up in all the other stuff. Let's just go win that first one.
You and I scares the shit out of me. I don't like playing you.
Well, they're always well coached, and there's been a lot of close games, and they've had close games with Iowa too, and Kinnick. And so, I mean, it's not shocking when they play somebody close or have a chance to win those games at the end. And they've won in Jack Trice Stadium. And I've seen it. And so, it's you never take that lightly. They've got a good program.
I'm just honestly really curious to see how like their spring ball to basically just having the summer to rest, and now they got to go play again and go through that grind.
Yeah,
right back again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, that's a quick turnaround. And, Matt Campbell had the unique approach to spring practice, the way that he went about organizing the spring for the Iowa State players. And we're going to see what kind of dividends that pays. But he's really a believer that he learned some things during COVID. And, if you could take some positives out of a situation like that, you can take positives out of anything. So I'll be curious to, Iowa State hasn't traditionally gotten off to fast starts, but there's a lot of veteran guys on this team that know what's at stake, and I think they'll be really ready to go. But, talk to me again in August as we get a little closer.
Hopefully Will McIlvain doesn't turn into Johnny Manziel 2.0 again.
I've seen that. Yes.
I do have a comment here, though, from Nathan Brown. While I appreciate this, I don't appreciate you bringing up the Drake game. We're never going to talk about the Drake game ever again.
The what game?
Yeah. Exactly.
That was scary.
Right. The Incarnate Word game?
How did you feel about that as a Drake grad? In the word, like the most unpleasant day I think I've ever sat through in an entire football game.
Yeah.
Well, I was amazed that Drake was able to do what they did, and super impressed with what they did. I mean, I thought physically it would just be an absolute mismatch. And obviously the field conditions probably had something to do with it, but that's not fair to Drake probably. I mean, those guys battled, and they competed, and it was a big deal for them. And you can't underestimate what a big deal that was for those guys to come in and play in that game. And man, I'm happy as heck that Iowa State found a way to win it, because I'd never live it down. But the thing is too, I mean, you never know what one little piece of the puzzle like that could do to change where we are, what if Iowa State had lost that game? And, everything you accomplish since then, everybody goes, yeah, but you lost to Drake, I mean, so we don't have to listen to that. So, but yeah, I don't think there'll be a rematch. And
no thanks.
Thanks. And the field conditions, obviously, that's something that if you start having a lot of December home games, I think they're going to be replaced in the field at some point, and maybe next year. And
I think I saw it on the major construction projects schedule. I think it's after this coming season.
Just the new turf. New natural grass, which will be great. Because I love the fact that we have a natural grass stadium. But you want to have a good,
especially
really
this far north. Everybody else that has it is down
especially
south.
as you start getting good players.
It's like, no kidding. Yeah.
Well, now we don't really want the slop. We would like a good field with good traction so that Brees Hall can be Brees Hall.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
John, my wife is a Drake grad as well, and so a bunch of our friends are Drake alum, and that was So I think my wife was pregnant at that time, and we had a bet that. So when was that game? So my second daughter was due in
yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, so my wife was pregnant, and our daughter was due in April.
Okay.
And I had a bet with my wife that if Drake won, that I would not have a drink with her the rest of her pregnancy. But there was nothing else. Like there was nothing like if Iowa State wins, like she has to do X, Y, Z. It was a one-sided. Like I was like,
bet.
That's how marriage works.
Yeah. So yeah, I
This is the
was
19-year-old.
getting a little nervous there for a while.
Lesson learned right there. Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
No, that's don't make one-sided bets.
You
If
almost
you're
lost
alert
that one.
anything from this show, don't make one-sided bets.
There it is.
Yeah.
Words
don't
of
do that.
wisdom.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions for John, I think we're gonna transition.
I got one
to
more.
Oh, you got more one? Okay,
Yep.
go ahead, Aiden.
So, Iowa State is kind of taking on a new tradition of Juicy Wiggle, which kind of not really at a certain moment, just whenever everyone's kind of feeling it and everyone puts their phone flashlights up and you kind of have the best view out of anyone in the stadium and you've seen it probably close to 25 or 30 times now. What are your thoughts about that?
I love it. I think it's great, man. I love Iowa State fans being happy. That's a good thing, and that means something good's happening on the field. And they find great ways to celebrate, and that's another one of them. And I hope we see a ton of Juicy Wiggle this season. I'm all for it.
Agreed. All right. I think we are going to transition into our first trivia game of the night, which is Aiden versus the 90s. With our excellently produced intro. All right. So because John is a Chicagoland native, this is going to be a couple of Chicago themed questions here from the 90s. So, so how this is going to work, Aiden and John, you guys will get the first crack at it. If you guys can't get it, then it moves on to Josh and Matthias. First question. During the 1998 home run chase, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa famously went off and just kept launching homer after homer that whole season. How many home runs did Sammy Sosa finish with?
70.
Give me 73.
Seven. Both of you. Neither one of you.
I got it.
Did you look it up?
66.
Did you look it
No.
up? It was 66. Nice.
I was gonna say. 65.
I was gonna say 64 for a second, but then I just got thinking about because what was that ESPN documentary they had? I just remembered that for random. What was that called?
That's a bad job out of me not knowing that.
Summer of
All right.
'98 or something. I don't remember.
I got a rally.
Yeah,
All
fair
right.
enough.
Yeah, mine was gonna be 65. That was my guess, but
Okay, so I lied. It was only one Chicago themed one. I forgot I changed the other one. Okay, but the other one, this one is Iowa State themed. All right. So prior to the 2017 upset at Oklahoma, the last time that Iowa State had beaten Oklahoma was in 1990 down in Norman. What was the final score? If you can get Iowa State's score, you get a point. If you get the correct final score, you get a high five.
I know Chris Peterson had the game-winning touchdown.
Indeed.
All right. Well, you know more than me then.
I want to say 23-21. I know I'm close.
You're in the right ballpark.
Give me 30-21.
You are farther away. Kind of. You're both kind of equally far away. It was 33-31 was the final score.
Whoa, that's right.
Oh, I should have given.
What was the score?
You didn't even give us a shot.
I didn't get. Were you gonna
that's
get
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah. What the heck?
And what was the score in 2017?
38-31.
38-31? Yeah.
So close. Okay. All right. My bad. Jim
All right.
Walden. Yeah, that was a great Pete call too when Chris Peterson stuck
Yeah,
it in
the
there.
last one where he said, and Iowa State knocks it down and they won the game.
Yeah.
Then I can't remember who it was when they were walking off the field that he looked at the camera and said, "Party names."
Party
today."
names today. Yeah.
I can't remember. I remember who that was, but
Yeah.
That comes up on Twitter all the time.
it comes up on Twitter all the time. All right, this one actually, if you guys really somehow can't get this, I'll give you a screenshot so you can look at it. But this electronic device that you would keep on your hip would allow you to see who is calling you.
Oh, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Pager?
can't think of that. Pager, yeah. Pager.
Pager John got. Sorry, and you suck at this game.
I never had one, but
Very good.
They were there.
I wasn't important enough.
You weren't important enough to have a pager?
No, nobody needed to reach me.
Fair enough. Okay. So that was a good job. Let's see. John, you got one, right? Yeah, you got you got one. Aiden got 0.
Okay, this was dumb. You had us on the exact numbers.
Well, the problem is, Aiden, maybe you're dumb. So
This is like my Size House of Trivia performance. Very poor. Just trying to chip in for the ball club to move the runner over.
We shoot for 1 for 3 here.
1 for 3 is a Hall of Fame average.
That's
the key. That's the key. Okay, so that was in verse the 90s. All right, so we got our second trivia game, which Aiden leads off for us. Called was it old heads new trends? I have to remember the old heads new trends, right?
Yep.
Okay. Give us
Hit it.
intro. Jeez. I tell you what, Josh's a good-looking old dude, man. I hope you look that good when you're like 80.
That's what I say. Like, I hope I look like that when I get older. Like, I really do.
And I hope you also acquire the nickname Butterscotch Candy. All right,
I'll leave that one behind. I don't know. That.
All right, Aiden, what's the first newfangled thing you're gonna ask?
First question. What did Olivia Rodrigo get last week?
What?
I don't even know
What did Olivia Rodrigo get last week?
Okay, Olivia Rodrigo is a singer that just came out with a hit song called "Good for You."
MTV Music Award.
What'd she get last week?
She get a car?
Her vaccination.
A vaccination.
No one is right.
A new boyfriend. I don't know.
No.
What was it?
The answer is driver's license.
What?
Hey, I bet she got a car too.
Yeah, well.
But you know what though?
It's from the song.
She did. Oh yeah, she had a song called "Driver's License." Yes. Okay. Yeah. But she actually finally got her. She's only 16.
Driver's license last week, just like we.
Okay.
Seriously, that's your question?
What? Yeah.
Well, Aiden, what the hell was that?
Oh, you're one to talk.
John?
You're one to talk.
John knew it. It's fine.
I had it all. You want me to sing it?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right, next question.
Oh, speaking of which, we can get you a good cut. Did you know that Steele Jance plays the flute?
No.
He does. We could get you in a karaoke session with Steele. I don't know.
That's why I came on here tonight, just to gain some knowledge.
Well, we got knowledge. It may not be worthwhile keeping.
That's fair. Yes. Didn't say it was going to be good knowledge. It's just, it is knowledge.
That's awesome stuff right there.
All right, Aiden, what's up next?
All right, next question. How many of Kendall Jenner's ex-boyfriends were eliminated from the NBA playoffs last week, and who were they?
I'm
gonna say
2.
I'm gonna say 2.
Nope.
3.
Yes.
Okay, Ben Simmons,
Blake Griffin.
Yep.
Who's the third one? Oh, did she date Jordan Clarkson?
Yeah.
Oh, goal.
Yeah, but you're wrong because you guessed it wrong first.
That's fine. That's, you know what? I'm okay.
Hate to see it.
John, did you know that?
No, I was thinking Lamar Odom, but he's been out for a while, right?
Ron Kardashian.
Ron Kardashian.
Ron Kardashian.
Yeah. I had no idea. I had no idea.
All right.
Final one.
Or is this is
now we have the Urban Dictionary definition of the day. All right.
Do you know what Urban Dictionary is, John?
I hope so.
So this says a no.
So I'll say a definition and then you guys tell me what the word is.
Okay.
The opposite of trendy, stylish in middle school and high school, but no longer in style. Used when someone still follows these out-of-date trends. This may include, but not limited to, fashion, habits on social media, uses of slang, etc.
So out of date.
Is that your guess?
Well, no. I'm thinking out loud.
Can we get like what it starts with?
Yeah. So I might need a hint of some sort. I'm not
Starts
sure.
with the C.
Cold.
No.
Cheese.
Not cheese.
I got nothing. I have no clue.
Josh is like pulling this straight from the back of his brain.
Josh.
Right he's in a deep thought right now.
He's digging
as soon
deep, man.
as soon as you say it, I feel like I'm gonna be like,
oh, I know. As soon as you say
yeah.
it, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. I got nothing. I give up. I've got nothing.
Anything from you, Josh?
Nothing,
No,
Josh?
last time I gave a guess, it was a little out there.
So, yeah, wasn't close.
All right, so you ready for the answer?
What's the answer?
Chuggy.
What?
What?
Never would have guessed that in a million years.
CHEUGY.
I was gonna say that.
I know.
How do you spell it?
CHEUGY.
Have you used that before, Aiden?
Personally, no.
Have you heard
people
Have you
use it?
heard
say
it
it,
before?
Yeah.
What?
Chuggy Wuggle coming to Jack Trice Stadium.
John, if you can sneak that in as like your diction, if you can sneak that into a broadcast.
Like
if
I
you
said,
call someone's uniforms Chuggy,
Oh my god, it's Iowa. It's obviously the Iowa game.
Yeah.
They call
the
the
whole
Iowa.
program.
Iowa
The whole
uniforms
program's
Chuggy.
out of style.
Yeah.
okay. All right, we'll work it in there.
Oh my god.
Aiden, can you use that in a sentence?
Yes. My friend told me to change out of my favorite pair of Miss Me jeans because they were Chuggy.
What does that even mean? Did somebody just make up a word and say this?
That
is
feels
what
like a
it's gonna
totally
mean?
made up word.
Pretty much.
That's how words work, actually. People just make them up.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my God. Get out of here. How do I disconnect you? Oh,
Boo. It's terrible. But like it feels like something that wasn't like a word that was repurposed, like cool or something like that. It was just just came out of the ether. All right. All right. Well, that was a disastrous episode edition of Old Heads New Trends. All right.
It was brutal.
You'd think Santa would be better at those games.
I'm trying, dude.
All right, let's see. Do we have any more good fan questions we can ask? They're all good questions, but you know.
Well, they've all kind of been about the same, just asked in a different roundabout way.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right.
But just make sure you get that thanks for the memes or fade to black. Just put it on the list and in the moment just choose one.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
And you got to write down. You have to use Chuggy at some point.
All right. It's it'll be a Chuggy reference to Thanks for the Memes.
There you go.
There we go.
Figured out. I'm curious to see how you're gonna do that, but
So am I.
Just say they're Chuggy uniforms with the
Chuggy offense.
Yeah.
Black letters with black trim.
Let's just beat him.
This
Chuggy memes.
The Chuggy memes.
Chuggy memes. There you go.
Jesus.
Somebody do something.
I was gonna say someone's got start
pull
playing some highlights so YouTube cuts us off. All right. Well, if you guys don't got anything else for John, I think we'll probably get ready to wrap her up for this evening.
That was fun, guys. Thanks.
Great,
Yeah,
John.
thanks for
Thank you
hopping
for coming on. It's been great.
I appreciate it.
I do want to give you a personal thanks from myself because I was born in '92 and so like the first and I grew up and I now live still in Eastern Iowa by Dubuque and so because Iowa State wasn't on TV very much or ever, especially like into the early 2000s, stuff like that. Anytime I wanted to pay attention was on the radio. Well, by the time I was old enough to like pay attention and kind of understand what's happening was right about the time when you took over. So, and like when I would sit down and I remember we played Ohio one season and I sat down and I had just like a baseball scorecard. I wrote down, whenever we scored points, I kept track of the tally of the score. I kept some stats and stuff like that and all the time. So, but part of that was, that was how I kind of got to paying attention to Iowa State sports and kind of got me to where I am now. And it was listening to you. So
cool.
So thank you.
I did for you what Jim Durham did for me.
Yeah.
That Ohio game was I think the first game I ever called for Iowa State, and we won.
Yep.
I think Lane Danielson had a long touchdown run, and like I said, I thought, man, this is going to be so easy. And then 2-0 turned into 2-10, but man, here we are now.
Here we are.
Times are good, so let's enjoy the ride.
And now you and Matt Campbell get to work together, inspiring a bunch of young kids that, a bunch of them that are like in school now that have never known bad Iowa State football.
Exactly.
Isn't that crazy to think about? Yeah. So
unbelievable.
Yeah. Understand and appreciate the history, man. Cause that's, what's going on right now is incredible and it's super special. And I think it's built to last. I don't think it's going away. That's what's great about it.
100%.
But man, let's enjoy every bit of it and be supportive. And, I'm going to start sounding corny, but I hate it when people just like feel like, okay, this is the way it should always be. And, understand the history, understand how special what we're witnessing is, because we've got an unbelievable guy leading our program right now. And we should just respect it and enjoy every bit of it.
Couldn't agree more.
100%.
Now that we're overexcited for Iowa State football.
Oh. Now we're all hyped up and it's still only June.
The program's
longest summer of all time.
Yeah. Be here before you know it, man. It's gonna be fun.
Looking forward to it. It does already seem crazy though that we're already at July after the year that lasted 10 years. Now it's the year that lasts 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but thank you again, John, for coming on. Had a lot of fun with you.
Yeah.
If you do somehow manage to use Chugi at some point during the season, we will have you back on to congratulate you.
I'll figure it out.
That's the only way you get back on, though.
That is your ticket price back on.
Yeah.
Promise?
Promise.
Okay.
We'll uphold that. We will uphold that.
All right.
So thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed it. Everybody, hope you enjoyed this as well. So for Aiden, I introduced you last. John, for John, Josh, Matthias, and myself, and our child producer Aiden Wyatt. Everybody, hope you had a great time watching this episode. We'll see you again next week.